Matteo, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Always a pleasure. Always, it's for the haircut, you know.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, you've done a great job. We're here at Sibos, and you're here. You're actually here.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because it's been a while since you've had your name on one of the badges here.
Indeed. And of course, pandemic gave us a good break, in make Sibos virtual, and we are here to representing Breaking Banks, which is a podcast you have been collaborating with a lot, having great fun. We've been interviewing both Swift, Sibos representatives, and many guests. But more importantly, as you know, this Sibos sort of marks my coming back at InnoTribe, which is something that not many people know, because it's been now over a decade. We founded together with a bunch of Swift colleagues over a decade ago. So I'm super happy to be here. It feels like a very underground, energetic, live. I like it, and InnoTribe stays at the forefront of the content of innovation in financial services for me, clearly.
How do you feel? Obviously, 10 years ago, I remember the first one that I attended in Singapore. It was like a small circle with, I don't know, maybe about 15 organizations.
It was a phone cabin, basically.
Yeah.
We probably, 50 to 60 people maybe at the beginning, and the budget wasn't what it was today. And but as I always say, the principle, the idea of bringing something disruptive and new to the community, maybe even sometimes, content that is almost too far for being understood right now. That was the case 10 years ago, clearly. Remember, you might not remember, but in Osaka, Vitalik came to present Ethereum, and it was like I don't even know how old it was, but probably not far from 18 years old when he came. And can you imagine an 18-year-old kid talking to a bunch of bankers, right? And and explaining Ethereum over a decade ago. That's how disruptive InnoTribe can be. Right now, I think that the catch-up is much shorter, and faster as well, in the sense that the themes that they talk about are super close to our heart and our businesses, So it's when you talk about sustainability, and green finance and ESGs, these are themes that are not 10 years from now, they are actually now.
Absolutely. What do you think about the fact that it's definitely head and tails from where it was, but there is still that slight divide? There's a little sort of portal there which brings you into the Discover Zone compared to the big banks out there. What's your thoughts on bringing this further in?
So first of all, kudos to my friends at Sibos, and I only named Jamie and Greg because they are dear friends, but there is a huge team behind, because they pulled this off in 6 months. So pull an event like this in 6 months is chapeau. That first. Second, the fact of having all the startups, the disruptors, if you want to, in the same space, this could be a Money 2020 within Sibos, with proper, preparation and amplitude, given by time and by intention and motivation. It is true that it feels very different, here from the rest of the crowd. The lights are different, the infrastructure is different, the ground is different. The content is as interesting, if not more. Could it be more blended into the whole exhibition? Maybe. I think that there are considerations. I have some experience in building events previously. I think there is also, talking openly, a budget constraints, right? Not for Sibos, but from the startups. So if you ask them to, to buy a space in the middle of the very large corporations, it has a cost. Here it has another cost. So, and it's not up to me to judge anything, but there are good reasons. What I do think though is that the potential of this space is actually so much bigger than what it is, and that's great.
Excellent, very, very well said. Now, you're obviously wearing Rebel t-shirt right now. Got to talk a wee bit about your book.
Oh, thank you so much. I actually have a copy for you, which I'll probably pull it out and give it during the interview if you want to, or maybe afterwards. No, the Rebels is a brand that reminds me of a mindset, of never being satisfied of the status quo and always trying to challenge any situation, whether it is under the financial, innovation, content, business model point of view. And I discovered over the years that my passion is really, one, giving wings to entrepreneurs. And by giving wings to entrepreneurs, I mean sometimes money, sometimes attention, sometimes free time, some other time like advisory versus equity. But overall, I love to hang out with people who love business. That's one thing. But there is also a specific way of doing this, which is my Rebels way. So it is always super straightforward. If I have to be like a contrarian, I will do it, but not just for the sake of it, but simply because it grounds, these young entrepreneurs that think that, they believe in their own bullshit. Which is error number one of any entrepreneur. So I think that, our role as, coaches or people with a little bit more experience is to, nuance a little bit, the bullshit they believe in. And try also to focus on the real things,
Very, very, very well said there. We talk a little bit about Breaking Banks. Breaking Banks Europe. How did that come about? Did Brett say, "Oi, Matteo, you're doing this"? How did that whole thing come about?
So Brett tried for a little while. We've been talking for more than 3 years, which is the moment that Breaking Banks started. And that was because, the podcast wasn't really well developed, in general, right? And probably Europe wasn't ready just yet. But 3 years ago, actually, we were in Milan. Brett was at one of his speeches, and he says, listen, why don't we give it a shot? And then make a few phone calls, bring some of the old gangs together. We started. And then, as, in most cases, we are now at episode 150. So 150 episodes, and we already created the first child of Breaking Banks Europe, which is Breaking Payments. So Breaking Payments puts together P-Pro, Tunes, Pioneer, and Plaid, and with the slogan "Payments are cool again." And it's funny because we were at Money 2020. I literally have 4 conversations. They all jump on board. We're now season 1. 12 episodes, we do live shows at the events, and we talk about anything from metaverse payments to creators economy to digital payments to the new payment businesses that are about integration and embedded payments. So it's been a great experience. The challenges are, because there obviously are, is the fact that podcast is still very complicated to assess in terms of audience. There are no, how many auditors you have, you don't know if they listen to the whole show, from where they connect to. There is only a big, chunks, of auditors that you can define. Truth is, Breaking Banks is 10 years old next year, okay? So we are on the oldest one. There are no podcasts that were born in the past 3 years that are in the top 50. Means that there is an advantage of being part of the legacy of the business. And this is where, this is our strongest selling point, if you want to, because at the end of the day, podcast is a business.
I've got to correct you there, that there is at least one podcast that was born in the last 2 weeks that has made it in the top 20.
Uh-huh. Cool.
The Salon.
Cool. Cool.
So yeah,
cool.
got to correct that a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay. You know, I am super happy to be wrong, and you guys deserve it all.
The last bit I want to touch on is, well, we're on day 3, but how have you found the whole event?
So the first of all, I must say that it is hard to do 5 steps without hugging someone, which is great, and maybe 2 steps without smiling at someone, which is great. So it is very demanding mentally, you know, because there is a lot of catch up to do, and everyone is super excited to be back after the pandemic, as as many people sitting in this chair certainly have said. But for me, as a particular significance, you know, being back is like being back to the family. And frankly, when you spend 13 years with some of the colleagues here at Swift, you create friendships that are like really strong. So for me, so much more than a business event. Only Sibos, so much more than a business event, because you know that I discovered what my passion is. Thanks also to my Swift that Did Not Thrive story. So I'm certainly very grateful, first of all, and second, you know, for me, Sibos still has the best content. You know, no doubts about it. To a point where you know it's actually difficult to keep up, but on the other hand, you know, everything is well documented, and there are people like you who give pills, which is great. People like us and you that interview the leaders. It is difficult to navigate, but the amount of insights that produced in this week is just lovely.
Amazing.